Hi there, this is Professor Warsi. Today, I want to discuss some common mistakes that my students make in academic writing. And these mistakes are very common among English language learners, especially second language learner of English. In this lesson, I'm going to give you an overview of the importance of clarity, that your meaning must be clear, conciseness, and correctness. So let's begin. Today's objectives are understanding common mistakes in academic writing, learning techniques to improve clarity and conciseness, and identify and correct grammatical errors. And this is one of the most important things you need to improve your writing, because more often than not, students are not aware that they're making grammar errors. So it's very important for you to identify and then correct your errors. And while you're writing, it's also important to avoid plagiarism and develop skills to revise and proofread effectively before you submit your papers to your professor. All right. So informal language. This is very common. Students use spoken English or informal language. So try not to use contractions. Okay? Won't, don't, can't. Instead, write do not, cannot, and will not. Okay? Also avoid slang and colloquialism. Colloquialisms means, spoken English or even like street language, or very, very casual language. So the experiment was kind of cool. This happens sometimes and is anything but academic. Instead, right, the experiment yielded interesting results. So yielded is an academic verb. The author talks about the effects of climate change. Now, this is also a very common error that my students make all the time. Rather than writing an academic word such as discuss or note or argue, they say the author talks about, when they really should be saying the author discusses the effects of climate change. So let's do this exercise, and this time I am not going to give you answers because I need you to work by yourself. Otherwise, you will never learn if I keep giving you the answers. So there are some informal words in the passage. Read the passage very carefully, identify the words that are informal, and then replace them with more formal words, academic words. Okay? All right. Passive voice. Passive voice versus active voice, such as Mary gave me flowers, and flowers were given by Mary or given to me by Mary. The second one is very uncommon. Most people use active voice. So when to use passive voice, you may be wondering. When do you use passive voice? Well, when the object is more important than the subject. The American president, George F. Kennedy, was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, the headlines didn't say Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated President Kennedy. Very few people knew who he was. But the President Kennedy was the leader of the United States of America. He was more important. So in such cases, the object is more important than the subject. The passive voice is better. The second situation when passive voice is used is when the subject of the action is not to be disclosed. So it's confidential information. So rather than saying Musk laid off 200 employees, so everybody knows now who fired 200 employees. Passive voice is used, like 200 employees were laid off, or letters were mailed yesterday. Who mailed the letters is not important. Okay? All right, so try to do this exercise. A new vaccine was developed by scientists. The report was written by the team. Convert the sentences from passive to active, and then take the quiz. All right? You may wish to pause the video at this point and then complete the exercise before you move on. All right. Redundancy and wordiness. So The golden rule of academic writing is to omit needless words. So I've given you a list of redundant wording, such as in order to, due to the fact that at this point in time, so rather than saying in order to, just write to. There's no reason to write 3 words to convey the same meaning. Okay, so be concise. Okay, very good. So try to memorize this or even practice using the common words in just one word, one academic word. Rather than saying a large number of people came, many is enough. Okay? All right. So try to do this exercise now. Again, pause the video, complete the exercise, find the redundant words, the words that are repeated or words that are unnecessarily used, too many words. Try to replace them with something concise. Okay, moving on. Subject-verb agreement errors. Students often make these errors, even though it's a local error. If you really want to know what a local error is and how it's different from a global error, there is a lesson. I'm going to put that link in the description box below. Okay, so identify and correct the subject-verb agreement errors in the following paragraph. So let me give you an example before you do the exercise. The author argue. There's an error, right? Because there's only one author. So the verb should have the third person singular suffix s. So the author argues is better than the author argue. The author argue is incorrect to begin with. Okay. Vague pronoun references. And it actually happened to me today. Sometimes when people use pronouns, they forget that it should be preceded by a noun. My friend wrote to me today, they attacked their area. Now, I was confused because I did not know who they was and who there was. So they say that climate change is real. The reader does not know who they are. So scientists say that climate change is real is clear now. It's very concise, and the reader knows there's some scientists who believe that climate change is here to stay. All right. So there is an exercise again for you to identify and rewrite the vague pronouns. So I will not tell you what the vague pronouns are. Read the passage very carefully and replace the vague pronouns with something precise. All right, so keep working. There will be lots of exercises because I'm introducing some very common mistakes in writing made by students. Okay. There is a separate lesson on plagiarism, which is an example of academic dishonesty. Academic integrity is very important in colleges and universities and in high schools as well. Students are supposed to write their own ideas using their own words. So plagiarism is actually stealing ideas without acknowledging whose ideas the writer is borrowing. Okay? Plagiarism is considered academic dishonesty. I said that before. Do see the lesson on plagiarism in which I talk the examples of plagiarism in detail. Okay? So this is a common mistake. Sometimes students do not really realize that they are plagiarizing. It's called innocent plagiarism. Maybe they forgot to mention the source or put quotation marks. So let's try to do this exercise. There is an original passage and see the plagiarized version. And do you see any similarity between the two passages? Notice that the plagiarized version just very cleverly changes some words and sentence structures and gives the impression that this is written by a writer, not another writer, but a writer. And in that case, when a student uses some ideas or borrows some ideas from another source, from an original source, she or he should mention what the source is. All right? Incorrect in-text MLS citation style. If you are in college and you're taking English 101, the professor will ask you, your English professor will ask you to incorporate in-text citations in your paper. So there are ways to incorporate in-text citations, and also create the works cited page, the list of sources in an alphabetical order. So study this slide. I will have a lesson on MLA for you later, but for now, just look at the examples. I've given you the incorrect examples and then the correct examples. Okay? All right. So there's more. Wrong order of elements, no hanging indentation, and including the full URL without angle brackets. Okay, so notice that in the incorrect version, all right, how about this? You look at the incorrect example and then the correct example and then see the difference, if you can tell the difference between the two. All right? Okay. Misuse of punctuation. Now this is, again, it could be a local error, it could be a global error, depending on where the punctuation error is. So it's a good study, and it's a good study. They sound the same, right? But notice that there is an apostrophe after it in the second example. It's is a possessive pronoun, and it's usually used to refer to inanimate objects or even animals, okay, but not humans. Its cannot be used to refer to humans. So the college is improving its student services. If you use the full form of it's very ungrammatical. It sounds awkward. The college is improving its student services. That's not correct, right? So you'd rather write the college is improving its, no apostrophe, student services. So read the rest, all right? And then we will try to do an exercise. Pause the video at this point if you want to complete the exercise before you move forward. Identify and fix punctuation mistakes. There are punctuation errors in this passage. Read the passage carefully and identify and use the correct punctuation symbol. Okay? All right. Tense usage. Now, this could be a serious error in formal writing. I thought I know how to write an academic essay. Can you tell what the error is? I thought is in the past tense, right? I think, I will think about it, and I thought about it. So thought is a past tense, and I know is the present tense. I thought I know how to write an academic essay should be written as I thought I knew. Okay? John didn't realize that he write. That should be that he wrote, because didn't is in the past. All right? So be careful with tense usage. Let's do an exercise on tense consistency. Read the passage carefully, identify, and use correct tense usage. Okay? All right, so we have come to the end of this lesson. Let me just quickly wrap up the key points of this lesson. Avoid informal language. Gonna, wanna, right? Use the correct form, the full form, such as want to or going to. Do not overuse passive voice. I've given you two situations where passive voice is more appropriate than active voice. Do not use too many words. Do not be wordy. Rather than saying in order to, just write to. Grammar errors, proofread what you have written before you submit to your paper to the professor. Correct grammar errors. Also make sure that your pronouns refer to a specific noun. They know that their paper is due, but who is they and whose paper? Beware of plagiarism. Whenever you cite somebody, you quote somebody, make sure that you give them credit. Incorporate MLA rules of documentation properly. Use punctuation correctly. Put a comma in the right place. A question mark at the end of a sentence if you're asking a question. Punctuation correctly. Use punctuation correctly. And focus on consistent tense usage. If you're using the present tense, the whole sentence should be in the present tense. If you're using the past tense, the whole sentence should be written in the past tense. All right, so that's it for today. I will have more lessons coming up. I have prepared quite a few exciting lessons for you. Be sure to write your questions or any comments in the description box. I will see you soon. Take care and work hard. Thank you.